Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, Kentucky, Louisville to be specific. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the it's not the Agree to Disagree show, it's the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM network. My name's Brian Engelman, and I am your host as I have been for the past 9 years, but I haven't been doing shows regularly, clearly because I almost queued up an Agree to Disagree show, but that's an awesome show with 9 years of content. You can go to our YouTube channel, click subscribe, and dig through our 9 years of shows, interviews, commentary on sports, on current events, and more. It's youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. Also, most important right now, probably where we're most active, is on Facebook. The Facebook group is called The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. So it's a private group, coming up on 2,000 people. We've kept it private. We could be bigger right now, but we like the community we have, and we kind of like the interactions that we get. So join over there and invite all your friends. One more thing. We have collector's item pins, and I usually have one to hold up, but it's back there, and I'm not going to get it this second. But they're fundraisers for our graphic designer. If you'd like to get a pin, let me know. Minimum $25 donation, and $20 of each donation goes directly to our graphic designer until he's paid in full for his awesome rendering, for his creation of the idea that was in my head for the Unhappy Hour Sports Show neon sign. So if you'd like one of those, send me a direct message, let me know, and thank you to all of you who have gotten pins in the past. I think we're at 19. I gave away maybe the first 10 to friends and family, first 8 or something like that. So anyway, thank you very much for supporting us. I want to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes. I want to talk about a team that had the best recruiting class this year. And to see what happened with the conference, going from ready to play a season to changing that, and then doing a truncated, how do you pronounce that word? A shortened football season. Trying to restrict travel and that didn't make sense at the time. But then after they announced their shortened schedule, a couple days later, there was a cancellation of the season. You'd heard the rumors growing over the weekend, and it doesn't make any sense. Luckily, Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields is to the rescue. Perhaps. We'll see. Players have never been more emboldened than they are right now. Emboldened, yes. It's late in the evening. My words are perhaps not as articulate as usual. But Justin Fields has started a petition. Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields started a petition requesting the Big Ten immediately reinstate the 2020 football season. And the petition that had nearly 250,000 signatures as of 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. Fields tweeted Sunday that, quote, "This cause is close to my heart," end quote, and he urged people to sign the petition. The campaign said it is asking the Big Ten to allow its players and teams to make their own choices as to whether they wish to play out or opt out of the fall season. The petition follows the Big Ten's decision to postpone the 2020 season based on medical advice regarding the coronavirus pandemic and a vote from the conference's presidents and chancellors. Now, by the way, I'm hearing there wasn't even an actual vote. There was discussion, but not an actual vote. And I think what we need to have now is we need to reverse this. To pretend that coronavirus lives on a football field and that's it is ridiculous. It's ludicrous on its face. It's panic porn. It's antithetical to what makes sense. Think of it being 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. Think of what that was like if you went to college. And if you didn't, I suppose, think what you were doing. You're probably going out. You're trying to meet people. You were maybe enjoying some beverages. Maybe enjoying the company of somebody you found attractive. Mingling, parties, get-togethers, all of those things. That's what happens for college-age kids. Now, where is the Rona most likely to find itself and to manifest? I would argue it's going to be in a unrestricted, free-for-all scenario where, let's just say we're talking Big Ten, so these are all big-name schools, and you have scholarships. And by the way, my MAC, my BGSU, my Falcons over here, they canceled their season first, so boo to you too, Falcons. But to assume that you couldn't put your players in a safe dormitory, slightly cordoned off, slightly restricted, slightly in a bubble, and that you wouldn't be able to find the resources to test your players once a week, a couple times a week, whatever the testing regimen is. That's going to be more testing than you would get just being out normal in campus or going to classes or going to the cafeterias. This is what students are currently doing. They're going back, but you can't be on a football field. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if you keep testing the players and if you keep them in some reasonable degree of a bubble scenario. You have structure in the children's lives. You have a regiment. You have a regimented daily schedule. You have a lot of focus and work and the hours being taken up by learning football. That's what you're playing Division I football for. A lot of these players have aspirations to play in the big leagues, in the NFL. Now I thought this, and I haven't heard anyone else talk about this, but it's something I'm really interested in now. What if, question of the day, what if The Rock, who just purchased the XFL, what if The Rock decided to get an Ohio XFL team and just say, you know what, we're going to hire all of the starting players on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Leave school, we will pay you, and perhaps this can be your springboard to the NFL. Forget about it. Take all the Big Ten schools and get XFL, like lease their stadiums. Do something. I could see this being so massive if Ohio State doesn't get their act together. If the rest of the Big Ten doesn't get their act together and get rid of the Big Ten commissioner. This new guy comes in. Oh, geez, now where's it? Kevin, what's this clown's name? Why is it not in this article? I put it as the title of this show. That's frustrating. But anyway, look, the point is, it needs to play in the fall. Football needs to play in the fall for the Big Ten, period. Pushing this back to January makes no sense. Players have trained their whole lives. You don't accidentally become a Division I football star. It's not accidental. Hang on, now I'm going to look up the dude's name. Kevin, what is it? Big Ten? Kevin Warren. Thank you. I don't know where they found this clown. In Michigan, football parents are demanding a reversal of the decision. Husker parents' letter seeks answers from the Big Ten and Kevin Warren. Big Ten has explaining to do under mounting pressure. I mean, people are pissed. And they should be. And this guy needs to be fired and set straight. The Rona is going to be everywhere. There is no running from this. All you can do is take the most at-risk populations, which are the elderly, the severely obese, those with COPD, with severe asthma, with diabetes. These are the people who need to be people that need to be on lockdown. These are the people that we need to be focused on protecting. Young, healthy Division I players are not the most at-risk people. Now, I will say some of the big linemen, the big fat linemen. All right, well now you're in that obese category. You're pushing 260, 310. You know, you're big boys, big boys. Those corn-fed boys in the Midwest. Now I could understand that. I think it would be fine for the Big Ten to offer players the opportunity to opt out of this season if they felt uncomfortable doing so. And I don't think they should lose their scholarships. These are unique circumstances. But you know what? The Big Ten Division I football programs, those are the ones that fund all the other programs too. And all those other scholarships. I believe it's a Title IX thing. You want to think about like ladies soccer, tennis, golf, curling, I don't know, whatever random other sports there are. Guess where they're getting their funding? They're getting their funding from the football program. The ripple effect of canceling this is just going to be catastrophic. The possibility, the thought, just the mere idea that they're going to be able to play a spring season. There is no way they're going to start a season in January. That's not what That's not what the bodies are conditioned to do. That's not what football does. You're not going to have 2 seasons back to back. And what's going to happen with all the bowl games? What's going to happen with the college football playoffs? They're just going to pause on their playoffs because you're wimping out? Because you're so induced by panic that you're going to abdicate your responsibility to the rest of your life? You're just going to throw caution to the wind, which is the opposite. I know some of you out there might think that playing a football season is the epitome, the definition of throwing caution to the wind, but that's not the case. We've seen the numbers. We've seen the statistics. Half of the deaths, I think the average age is 77 years old of the person dying with COVID, not from COVID, with COVID. We've seen all the charting errors. We've seen the vehicular accidents marked as COVID deaths, and all of the firsthand accounts of miscodings. We saw Mike DeWine, Governor Mike DeWine, got a test. He's got the Rona. Next day takes a test. No, false alarm. We saw it with Matt Stafford, the quarterback of the Detroit Lions. Gets Corona. And then turns out, nope, that's not the case. Didn't have the Rona. Okay, so you didn't have the Rona, or you did have the Rona, or we don't know. That's the problem with this China virus. It mimics other things that we've had. Coronavirus is a blanket term, and there's all sorts of coronaviruses. So the testing isn't accurate. We know this. You test one day, you're positive. You test the next day, you're not. There's a lot of false positives. And we're testing in this country more than any other country. And our country is massive. So of course the numbers are going up, but I don't want to know about the numbers going up. It is a statistic. It is something measurable. It is something worth knowing. So when I say I don't want to know, fine, I can know. But we don't need to breathlessly report on that particular component of things. What we need to know is how many hospitalizations and how many deaths. Those are the criteria. Those are the statistics that we should be following when it comes to the coronavirus, COVID-19, the Wuhan flu, the China virus, whatever you want to call it. That is what we need to be watching for. And those numbers have been chilling out. We heard at the beginning of this lockdown, when I went from having 2 jobs to having 0 jobs, a full-time and a part-time, day and a half, unemployed for months. At the time, I did a podcast called Big Fish in the Middle Kingdom. And, this was the week it happened. And I didn't really want to get into my personal situation of becoming double unemployed. But I did. I needed to talk about it because it was the current event at the time. And I said at the time, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. If it's not airborne AIDS, we're hearing remember when this was first popping off around St. Patrick's Day, March 2020. This had been growing for months. And there's a possibility when I had this weird dry cough for for a week and a half around the Super Bowl, I wonder if I might have had it. But when this was popping off in March, the story was 14 days to slow the spread. 14 days to slow the spread. Remember that one? And then it was, hey, we got to flatten the curve. Because the main thing we were going after was we were trying to make sure that the hospitals were not going to be overwhelmed. We saw pictures in Italy, bodies in the street, bodies piling up, no room at the crematorium. And you're like, oh my Lord, what is ravaging through the world right now? Luckily, after our president put warships on the East Coast and the West Coast, was it the Mercy and the Compassion and the Mercy? What was it? The Mercy. What are the 2 ships? See, this is where I would love to have a producer. I could say, hey, look up the name of those 2 ships. 2 COVID ships. What are they called? Public Health Response, CDC. The Mercy and the Comfort. There we go. Thank you. I'm thanking myself. The Mercy and the Comfort. Our president put boats on each coast preparing for something that nobody knew what it was. Now, at the time, I was saying it was an overreaction. Shutting everything down is ridiculous. And the ripple effect is catastrophic. It was a self-imposed Nagasaki. It was an economic Hiroshima, self-imposed. Now, obviously, we didn't know what this was, and obviously it is a real thing, and it is responsible for a lot of things. But it seems like half the stuff it's responsible are things that were happening anyway, taking out the weakest amongst us. That's the difference of dying from COVID and dying with COVID. You have multiple comorbidities and you pass away with corona. Is that from corona, or is that just it's taking the weakest people amongst us? And I've seen statistics that show that the average number of deaths in this country hasn't changed all that much, which means most of the normal deaths on average from heart disease, from obesity, from all sorts of diabetes, from all sorts of issues, those same people were dying. They were just dying with coronavirus. So it's my contention that having football in a regimented system with big teams, big money, big ramifications to restaurants, to hotels, to bars, to transportation, to merchandising, to all the sorts of ancillary business that's wrapped up in college football, the economic damage done by not having a season is far worse than the potential risk of having the healthiest, most fit, most watched after, most tested athletes that America has to offer in the peak of their prime physical condition from 18 to 23. Peak physical condition. Access to the best universities and hospitals. Or the hospitals attached to the universities in many cases. That's a safe place to be. You cut these kids loose and say, all right, you still get your scholarship, no football, so we'll see you in January. You know what kids are going to be doing? They're going to be at a much higher risk of contracting the Rona if you let them loose. Take away all the structure. It's awful. So I'm really hoping that what Justin Fields is up to, I hope it works. I hope it works. Fields tweeted Sunday that this cause is close to my heart. He urged people to sign the petition. The campaign said that it is asking the Big Ten to allow its players and teams to make their own choices as to whether they wish to play or opt out of the fall season. The petition follows the Big Ten's decision to postpone the 2020 season based on medical advice. Whose medical advice? Who is giving medical advice regarding the coronavirus pandemic and a vote from conference presidents and chancellors? What medical advice is saying that Division I, Big Ten college football teams are going to be more at risk? Sorry, I had to get a fly there. It's been bugging me for a while. Whew. What medical advice is claiming that kids are going to be more at risk? I want to see that medical advice. In the petition, Justin Fields wrote that the players believe that, quote, the safety protocols have been established and can be maintained to mitigate concerns of exposure to COVID-19. He goes on to say that he believes the players should be able to make decisions about what is best for their health and their future. Appearing Monday on ESPN's Keyshawn, J. Will, and is that a name of a show? ESPN has a show called Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin? It's an awful name. That's just an awful name. I haven't watched ESPN for years, so I don't know. Fields explained that the message he's trying to present to the Big Ten and Commissioner Kevin Warren. He explained that's a poorly written sentence, too. Once again, probably why I don't consume ESPN content very much. My biggest message to them would just be to get them to realize how bad our players want to play. And just the guys that are coming back for their fifth year, coming back off of injury, I think that we owe it to those guys the most. I've just seen behind the scenes all the work that they put in and how much they really care about it. And I honestly believe all the coaches and all the parents, players want us to play. Players want us to play, and they all feel safe with the guidelines that Ohio State has set. The Big Ten is aware of the petition, but has no comment at this time, a league spokesman said. I'm actually going to tweet this out. I'll follow us on Twitter. We're at American_media_. And for our sports only one, it's at TheUnhappyHour_. So let me put that one at TheUnhappy. Why is it not auto-generating? Hour. Good grief. Twitter's a cluster as well. All right, I'm tweeting that one out. That's a big story. This is a Heisman candidate. This is a potential, first round pick. This is a potential Heisman player. Big Ten's aware of the petition but has no comment at this time, a league spokesman said. All right. No comment. Okay, Kevin Fulbright Warren, whose kid is playing at University of Mississippi, right? Or Ole Miss. Let me just bounce to this real quick from the Detroit News. Angry and disappointed Michigan football players have galvanized and written a strongly worded letter to Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren and University of Michigan President Mark Schleisel, demanding a reversal of the cancellation of the 2020 football season. This is the final of 5 requests from the Michigan parents who also want video meetings with Warren and Schleisel to discuss the vote and rationale behind the decision to cancel. Warren said the decision ultimately was about the health and well-being of the athletes in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Once again, if that's the case, and I don't think it is. I think there's a deep-seated political motivation to a lot of this panic porn. There are people that want this president to fail so badly that they suffer from what you call TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Up is down, left is right, whatever President Trump wants, they want the opposite. But I think deep inside the hearts of a lot of lefties, not all, but a lot, and come on, let's just be honest. You know that if the economy is bad, if things are bad, there is a possibility that the President of the United States is going to get blamed. Don't do that, Nimbus. Get down. That's my cat. And he likes to scratch on my maps. I wish he didn't. I give him scratching posts. But there is something to the panic porn purveyors. The people who are panic porn purveyors. There is not medical evidence that says you're only going to catch coronavirus on a football field, or that the football field is going to greatly increase your chances of catching the coronavirus. That's just not the case. Common sense will tell you 18 to 23-year-olds, if left to their own devices, are going to be gathering and spreading the disease at much higher rates than if they were in a strictly regimented Big Ten Division I college football program, probably lightly or mostly or completely quarantined in a bubble away from the general public. These people are playing for million-dollar contracts, for generational wealth that'll change their families' families, that will set them up for the rest of their lives. You don't take this away, and you don't take this away from the Ohio State Buckeyes, who had the best recruiting class in all the NCAA. How in the world can your conference head look at lack of data, all of those opportunities for the kids, and the best recruiting class in all the land and say, yeah, this is worth throwing away? Because don't be fooled. There will not be any football in the spring, January. January is not the spring. That's winter. It's not going to happen. There's nothing. There's no medical evidence to support these claims or these positions at all. Look at the NBA. NBA's doing great. Major League Baseball, hey, a couple of flare-ups. Guess what? They caught them, they quarantined them, and now we're back to business. The NHL, back to business. Soccer, back to business. Golf, back to business. And NASCAR, back to business. Don't tell me football's different. Don't tell me it's different. You're bodying people up playing basketball, sweating all over them. They don't even have pads on. Enough. Enough with the crap. Just enough with it. Back to the Detroit News, the letter shared on social media Monday on a newly created Twitter page called Wolverine Football Parents, at Wolverine Family, is the latest of similarly worded messages from football parents around the conference to the Big Ten Commissioner and university presidents and chancellors who last Tuesday canceled the 2020 season. That announcement was made just days after Warren released a conference-only 10-game schedule set to kick off on Labor Day weekend. Quote, "We felt like we needed to contribute to the conversation that had already preceded us as the other teams' families had put those letters out." End quote. Chris Hutchinson, a 92 Michigan All-American and captain and father of current player Aiden Hutchinson, told the Detroit News. Lord, that's too long of a sentence. "We thought it was a big enough issue that we need to spend our time as Michigan football. I can't read anymore. I don't like saying that team's name. I call them that team up north. I don't refer to them. Anyway, this is our small way to be heard. Hopefully this doesn't ever happen again, but hopefully we can get some meaningful discussion, because right now there's been no discussion. Requests for comment from Schlegel and the Big Ten office were not returned to the news on Monday. Hutchinson, an emergency room physician at Royal Oaks Beaumont, where he's treated more than 1,000 COVID-19 patients, said more than 75 Michigan football families had signed off on the letter, and that number was increasing as of Monday afternoon. Iowa parents delivered a letter to the conference office Friday. Ohio State and Penn State parents publicly released their letters on Saturday, and Nebraska parents posted a letter to social media Sunday. Yeah, guess what? These parents want to get paid. And they don't think it's any more risky than being in a cafeteria, being in a nightclub, being at a restaurant, being at a bar, being in a dormitory, being on campus, being in a lecture hall. It's everywhere. You need herd immunity or a vaccine. And I'm not going to take a vaccine. An unproven first-generation vaccine. I'm good. I'm good. Were you or a loved one, harmed by mesothelioma? Yeah, I'm just not going to, I don't want a vaccine. What's going to have to happen is we need to boost our immune systems, take some vitamin D, get some sunlight, reduce some of our body weight. And by the way, if you guys haven't tried it, try this thing called intermittent fasting. And when I say that in a non-doctor, non-advice, non-health information kind of way. I'm just saying it's worked for me. It's been very helpful. I have slimmed down. I have reduced in mass. I've dropped a little bit of weight, and I'm just eating one meal a day. And sometimes I'm doing a 24-hour fast and eating later, and a lot of coffee and a lot of water. Okay. That's one of the major things that COVID seems to enjoy. It makes you weak. So I think what we need to do is we need to be boosting our immune system. Take your echinacea, your supplements, get your sunlight, drop some weight, take care of your health, and cross your fingers and hope that an evil monster, a silent, invisible enemy, just hope that it doesn't come get you. We're not going to live in a bubble our whole lives. This is ridiculous. We're not going to hide in a cave. That's ridiculous. We're not going to bury a hole in the backyard and put our head in it until, Orange Man Bad is out in November. Because, by the way, that's probably not going to happen. I think it's actually going to be a blowout with the silent majority of people who just don't want to deal with cancel culture, keep all their opinions to themselves, including the polls. Because the economy was going like gangbusters up until the coronavirus. Lowest unemployment ever. Highest employment in all segments across the board. All minority groups. I believe all minority groups. Every group. A rising tide raises all boats. Highest stock market in history. And then the Wuhan flu comes out. You can't blame this on the president. But I think things are going to change in November. I think people want as much misery. Some people want as much misery as possible between now and November. And I think they want it. I think some of them don't even know that that's what's going on. But I think they just so deeply rooted in their hearts. They want the president to fail so bad. Everything important. His livelihoods, mental stability, future. It doesn't matter. Man bad, Trump derangement syndrome. There's no science that says you're more likely to die from COVID as a healthy 18 to 23-year-old kid getting tested regularly and semi-quarantined at least, under the strictest of supervision. There's no data that tells you that is accurate. So if they're not going to tell you that and be honest about it, if Kevin Warren is not going to be honest about the reason why he's torpedoing or attempting to, he's going to get fired. There is too much money at stake, and there's no common sense behind his argument. And the SEC hasn't buckled, the Big 12 hasn't buckled, the ACC hasn't buckled, and God bless them. Stay strong. It's the same message you send to the internet bullies and the internet trolls and the rage mobs. You don't apologize. You never apologize. Now, I break that rule every now and then because sometimes I do generally want to, clarify something, or that came out wrong, or I don't know what I was thinking. Let me take that back and let me re-answer what I was trying to communicate there. But I talk a lot. I guess a lot of people talk a lot, but I talk more, and I record it and I put it out there for the world to see. Can't be perfect all the time. But you don't apologize. And if you're the SEC, stay strong. You're in the right. You're on the right side of history here. So if Kevin Warren is not going to give you a real reason why he's postponing the season, then you have to question his motivation and his true intentions. God, I don't even know. When's the last time you knew who the Big Ten commissioner even was? I smell a rat here. And he needs to be removed from his position, and this needs to be undone while we can. It's been a week of mayhem. Undo this. Continuing here, but Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields put his star power behind the movement Sunday when he posted a We Want to Play petition, hashtag We Want to Play petition addressed to Warren, Big Ten presidents, and athletic directors. Quote, "This cause is close to my heart. Please sign." 24 hours later, petition had more than 230,000 signatures. Michigan football parents in the letter praised Harbaugh and his staff remain in contact with the parents since on-campus activities were suspended in mid-March because of the pandemic. They said they're well-versed in the protocols established in the football program. More importantly, we have complete trust in our sons and their ability to determine what is best for them, the letter reads. Therefore, we overwhelmingly support their decisions to play or opt out this fall. As football players, they understand risk. As young men, they understand the consequences of their decisions. They are able to balance potential risk with reward. They are able to balance potential risk with reward. That is a strange sentence to say. They are able to balance potential risk with reward. There's a lot of this with those risk and reward. We believe that our boys participating in Michigan football this fall is the best possible environment during these uncertain times. Amen. We strongly believe that denying these players the opportunity to compete this season would jeopardize their futures. They deserve the opportunity to play. The Michigan football families in the letter also said they support the letters written by families from players at other Big Ten schools. We feel that the decision to cancel the 2020 season was premature. The letter reads, we also believe the Big Ten and university presidents failed to exercise due diligence by not acquiring the input of the very student-athletes their decisions would impact. The Michigan football families listed their requests of Warren and Schleisel, concluding with the reversal of the season cancellation. They also want a video meeting with the Big Ten commissioner to discuss the Big Ten's rationale. We're calling you to task. They want a video meeting with Schleisel to discuss the rationale of voting against playing when safety protocol was proving to be effective. They want a detailed description of the critical facts that were used to cancel the season. Exactly. If you're not going to get science, if you're not going to get facts in this, question the true motivation of Kevin Warren. I smell a rat with this guy. My spidey senses tell me there's some political motivation behind this crap. There just has to be. Because like the stuff that they're demanding. What is the detailed description of the critical facts that were used to cancel a season? What is it? Show me. They want a detailed description of standard protocols and safety practice for all Big Ten teams. All right, out with it. Let's make sure. What are we doing? What are we doing to limit potential exposure? That's fine. What types of testing are we going to get and how regularly? What third-party observer is going to make sure and guarantee that these protocols are being followed? It can happen. It's no big deal. The amount of revenue generated. And by the way, Major League Baseball is ready to let fans back in. NASCAR's already let fans back in. I don't know why the NBA's not. And man, oh man, there's NBA playoffs on now? Man, I thought I'd be excited for this, but geez, if all the politics of it didn't it turned me off. I love sports, as Mike Polk Jr. says. Now, in his famous Factory of Sadness rant at the Cleveland Browns Stadium, he says, let me see if I'm going to paraphrase or if I'm going to nail it. And look, I know that there are more important things than football in life, but you are supposed to be Now look, I know there are more important things in life than football, but you are supposed to be my pleasant distraction from those things. Thank you. Something like that. Sports is supposed to be a place of camaraderie. You build your community. You share stories. You go out. You have beverages. You talk with your friends. You watch the games. You root at home. Maybe you put a few Benjamins on the games that are going on. Make it more interesting. And most importantly, you kick back and you relax and you enjoy. You enjoy something entertaining after a long day of, a job that's taxing, that's that's that can sap your energy. This is a nice way to decompress. But it's not a great way to decompress when it's overt, heavy-handed, hardcore leftist dogma and propaganda being shoveled and force-fed down your mouth. I don't think if people wanted MSNBC, they would have ratings. They don't. People certainly don't want it during their sports. Now, if we want to talk about police abuse, if we want to talk about equality, cool, let's do that. Time and place, kids. Time and place. I'm surprised at how little I care about the NBA season. And I got every game. I just click on it, watch, and I haven't found myself with much of a desire to do so. And I think that's sad. I think it's really sad. Sports is supposed to be the last place, the last sanctuary we could go to avoid all the political crap. Because look, I cover the political crap. I do it all the time. All day. Every day. I think I'm pretty fair. I think I'm pretty reasonable. I think most of my opinions have held up pretty well over time. I got a 9-year track record. That's not what sports is. If you want to work in your communities, if you want to work with the local police, if you want to work with your local politicians, and I mean something other than just pandering for a president every 4 years. I mean really getting out there and doing stuff. You know, unfortunately, it's a real mixed bag. For every school LeBron James opened, and by the way, that's a city project. He did lend his help, and he did help secure some initial funding, but it's not like he built the school from all his money or anything like that. So that story, it's tough to unscramble the eggs of what LeBron did and didn't do to open up that I Promise school in Akron. By all accounts, it looks like a great facility, great program. But for every good thing like that, you know, it's been wearing hoodies for Trayvon. You know, misinformed, jumping to conclusions. I don't have it in me to re-legislate that case, but there was a court case. There was a self-defense shooting. Eyewitness testament. There was a case. You don't chime in on things that you don't have the details on. It's not wise. It destroys your credibility. And, you know, kind of like the Big Ten commissioner, Kevin Warren, if we don't know the facts, then I'm going to question the motivation. It just seems really heavy-handed, overtly crushing you over your head political. People don't want that in their sports. So anyway, once again, back to this Detroit news story. They want a detailed description of standard protocols and safety practice for all Big Ten teams. They want a reversal of the cancellation of the 2010 10-game season. It was signed the University of Michigan football families. Hutchinson doubts Big Ten families will be able to get the conference to reverse course, but they still want answers. You'd like to hear a detailed description, but the problem with all that is it's all interpretation. Everybody's got the same data. It's whatever your personal preference is. If you have a low risk tolerance, then you're going to say we don't really know about myocarditis, and the testing might be a problem, and we're really not sure what's going to happen when you get close contact, so that's too much for me. And other people I don't know, it's what I've anticipated the whole time. There's no rock to crawl under. There's no cave to climb in. There's no route running this. You do what you can, and you pray and you cross your fingers and you boost your body and you try to take care of yourself and you let the rest play out. Anyway, shortly after the Big Ten announced its plans to cancel the 2020 season and turn its focus to potentially playing in the spring, which it won't. In the spring, people are getting ready for the combine. In March, in April, players are getting drafted. They're not going to be playing. You're going to lose all the blue chip athletes. They're not going to play. There's no way they freaking play. And what do you do with the playoffs? Playoffs? I just hope we can have a season. What are you going to do? What is the grand plan? The playoffs are going to wait around till April or May or June until the Big Ten's done. No, they're going to have them in January, and they're going to be playing for nothing. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. And remember the story was that Kevin Warren was trying to get the other schools to bail out too. Remember that? I think he thought he had the rest of them ready to back out, and they haven't yet, and they need to stand strong. Shortly after the Big Ten announced its plans to cancel the 2020 season and turns in the spring, the Pac-12 also canceled the season but provided to the public the medical data and research that informed the conference leaders' decision. The Big Ten did not provide any documentation. Of the remaining Power 5 pressing forward in the fall, the SEC is releasing its schedule. They did that today. Oh, here we go. Warren, who said when the Big Ten schedule was released, that was not a guarantee there would be a season, and the Big Ten's decision was focused on the health and well-being of the athletes this fall. Research, including data regarding myocarditis, a heart condition linked to COVID-19, reportedly played a significant role in the decision not to proceed with fall sports. This is going to be a day-to-day situation, Warren said on BTN after the announcement, and we are in a perpetual state of observing, gathering information, doing everything we could to have fall sports. Through the weekend, as these letters from the families in the Big Ten rolled in as Field's petition gained steam, the spotlight remained on Warren, who offered very little detail in his post-announcement BTN interview. Aside from parents pointing out the fact that Warren's son is a football player at Mississippi State, a team in the SEC that is still forging ahead, there has been considerable criticism for making the decision this early. Several mothers of Michigan football players spoke to the Detroit News last week, including Peach Pagano, mother of Michigan captain Carlo Kemp. These sound like comic book characters. Peach Pagano and Carlo Kemp. I'm sorry. And Lisa McCaffrey, mother of Dylan, a quarterback at Michigan. And Luke, a quarterback at Nebraska. Pagano posted a message to Twitter on Tuesday after the decision, and McCaffrey and husband Ed shared a letter. You might know the McCaffrey family. Saying that they supported their children and their right to play. They believe the Big Ten could have started the season and then made a determination. I can't believe we're here, Pagano told the News last Wednesday. I can't believe that this that's where I'm at. I can't believe this has happened. Honestly, back to them, honestly, that they wouldn't even give us a shot to get through game one. In my mind, I'm like, let's just get one game under our belt. Even 2 games. I'm not scared that my son's going to die from it. I know we're too healthy, our mindsets and the way we believe, but oh my God, they didn't even give us a chance. Then this, other schools are still going. I can't process it properly. If it was for the greater good, they would cancel campuses, but they canceled football? Over the weekend, news broke regarding a potentially groundbreaking saliva-based laboratory diagnostic test developed by researchers at the Yale School of Public Health to determine whether someone is infected with the novel coronavirus COVID-19 was granted emergency use authorization by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Parents in the Big Ten, including at Michigan, had said that there was no need for the Big Ten to rush to a decision. Some had suggested delaying the start of the season, that advancements like saliva testing were happening quickly. And that's what makes their decision look even worse, said Hutchinson, who believes the Big Ten should have waited. Everybody keeps saying it was premature or a hasty decision. And this is case in point. 4 days later, you get this breaking news that the FDA had emergency release of this test, which could be groundbreaking. If you would have just held your water, you could have had additional information, which might have changed your mind. But now, because you already showed your hand, you're probably going to be less apt to change. Yeah, that's why he needs to be fired. There's no going back on this. Awful decision, terrible timing, no transparency, bully tactics to try to get the rest of the league to quit, no science backing your data, no science or data backing your determination. The guy needs to be fired ASAP and put somebody competent in there. Justin Fields, by the way, back to the petition, referred to we as the football players of the Big Ten, along with fans and college football supporters, and said they request the Big Ten Conference immediately reinstate the season in 2020. So, there we are. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, this is interesting because I have people saying that you can't have players sign a waiver. It wouldn't be. There's nothing you could do by signing a waiver. Signing a waiver isn't going to hold up in court. That the universities will be putting themselves at an enormous risk. I don't know if that's the case. But this is another interesting angle. Could the players and their families take legal action? Potentially. According to a Sports Illustrated story on Saturday, lawyer Tom Mars, familiar to Michigan fans after he successfully secured immediate eligibility for two-year quarterback starter Shea Patterson in 2018, said he was contacted by the parents of several Big Ten players seeking to help find a way to play immediately. Mars then wrote a two-page document, Action Plan to Mitigate Concerns and Legal Risks of Playing Fall 2020 Football. The first step would be to get the NCAA ban of liability waivers overturned. Okay, so, the legal risks. The first step would be to get the NCAA ban of liability waivers overturned. All right, so, well, if this is the case, and this is something maybe I was not as aware of, if that were to happen, lawyers could then draft liability waivers that essentially would prevent players and parents the ability to sue the school if their son contracted COVID-19. Well, okay, yeah, that's always been a part of the plan I envisioned. So if there's a rule that says that, change the rule. Change it. We're in a pandemic. Change it. In the sign-off to the letter submitted by the concerned parents of 81 Nebraska football players, they said their sons are willing to assume the risks. Quote, we do not want to make light of the seriousness of this terrible disease, but it is not going away, they wrote. Our sons are willing to assume the risk and commit to mitigating risks this fall. There are no guarantees these risks will be gone by the spring season. Exactly. There's no guarantee these risks. There is no guarantee that these risks will be gone in the fall. If you punt the season now, you're going to punt it in January. That's where I'm at. That's where my head's at. That's an opinion. And I would put down money. Although, honestly, I do think a lot of the what you're seeing is going to disappear after the election, after the re-election. Because then you just got to get back to life anyway, even though another 4 years of Orange Man bad. It's just to look at what big cities across America are allowing. The looting, the burning, the murder, the violence, the mayhem. Just allowing it to happen. Arresting people and not even charging them, just letting them back out. Encouraging them to do more of it. Draconian punishments in the bluest areas amongst us. I don't know if the Big Ten thing is political, but man, does it feel political. But like they say, there are no guarantees that these risks will be gone by the spring season. Truth. And the Michigan families shared a similar opinion. In their letter, they said, we have the complete trust in the coaching and medical staff of the University of Michigan. So I'm going to tweet this out. Once again, follow us at American_media_. And I will put this at the... Whoa, what the heck? Apple Z. How do I... What, am I out of space? I can't... That's weird. At the unhappy hour _. Oh, now it works. Okay, I'll tweet it. So follow us in both places. All right, let me bounce back here real quick. Yeah, no comment from the Big Ten. I'm going back to the Buckeyes letter with Justin Fields and what he's doing. Ohio State Senator Josh Myers said he signed the petition. In an interview with ESPN before Fields posted the petition, Myers expressed his frustration with the Big Ten over the decision to move the season to the spring, saying he and his teammates felt it was safe to try and play in the fall. Quote, I felt like if we had a season, it would be safer than if we didn't have a season, which might sound crazy to some people, but I do, Myers said. Everybody that I come in contact with, if we have a season, is getting tested twice a week, and they're in the cleanest of areas. And as a player on a team, you don't want to be the guy that gets it because you were being a fool and you were out somewhere you shouldn't be. Oh, there's a peer pressure. Look, these are livelihoods. Generational wealth coming to the players that perform their best in their senior year at a major Big Ten school. generational, life-changing, life-altering financial rewards to the players that shine. And you know what? Even if you're just a decent player on a good team or a great player on a bad, it doesn't matter. You've played your whole career for the opportunity to play under the bright lights, and you only get, well, you only get the time that you get. This pandemic is. Remember Kobe? Remember Kobe Bryant passed away? Remember that? That was this year. The year kind of started off with just a wow. Now, I wasn't a big Kobe fan, but, and I did believe the stories in Colorado, and maybe in hindsight, just seeing all the lies and false accusations, the Kavanaugh and the Covington kids, and just learning about fake news media more. It's possible that the Kobe thing didn't happen, or it happened in a different way, or all right. So, but although I wasn't a Kobe fan, I lived in LA for 15 years. I know he was important to a lot of people, and then I got back into his career and rewatched some stuff, and there was plenty of good stuff to take away. But when that happened, that was just one of those moments you go, oh God, if it could happen to Kobe, it could happen to any of us. How old was he? He's my age? Ooh, man. Better start living. Get busy living or get busy dying. I think in Shawshank Redemption, get busy living or get busy dying. But whatever the Kobe thing was, look, we've had half a year of COVID now. If that hasn't taught you to live your life and treat your life as precious and to go after the things that you want, I don't know what's gonna help you feel that way then. Players play to play. I mean, I remember I waited my whole career. I mean, I got significant playing time as a junior in my high school football team. Division I, undefeated team, played in the state championship that year. I was the third defensive end, so I was the backup. And we were blowing teams out by the third and fourth quarter, so we'd often replace the starters, and I got a lot of playing time. But I didn't really get to play. It didn't feel like it was my team necessarily until it was my senior year. And I took over right defensive end. Taking on the left tackle, their best tackle, every game. Protecting the blind side of the quarterback, theoretically, with a right-handed quarterback. I mean, I had been a football fan since the early days of Bernie Kosar. My whole life. I mean, my mom wouldn't let me play. She was worried about me getting hurt. Finally, 8th grade, me and Tom Grabowski. I think we had a cooking class, like a microwave and desserts class. Or was that Busavicki? But it was me and Grabowski. I had a class with him, and we just said we wanted to play. And I said, my mom doesn't want me to play. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna make it happen. And I found a way. I went and got cleats. I don't even remember how that played out. Who took me? Because I don't think my mom would have taken me. But I bought cleats. And I just told her, I said, Mom, I'm playing. I want to play. And I played. And, her and my dad came out and rooted for me. And my senior year, we were undefeated. Won our first round of the playoffs and went to the second round. And, I mean, I got so much from that experience. I learned what I was capable of, and I learned about work ethic and dedication, and I had passed everything my sophomore year. Every grade was a passing grade except for one quarter in one class. What was it? I think it was geometry. I got one F because I checked out in the fourth quarter of my sophomore year. And because I had gym class instead of health that semester. So you had health and gym and half a year. Something about the percentage of my passing grades was not high enough to qualify. And if it had been health, I would have been fine, but that they didn't count gym as a class. And so because of one quarter of one failing grade, I wasn't able to play my sophomore year. I'm sorry. So that happened my freshman year, and then I was penalized for my sophomore season. That's what it was. So my sophomore year, I was ineligible, and I busted my ass. And I I went to the two-a-days. I couldn't ride the team bus. I couldn't be in the team picture. Oh, that sucked. They could have made an exception. Put me in the back. It sucked. And yeah. So I mean, I busted my ass, and everyone knew I was ineligible. And the next year, my junior year, I came back, and I played significant minutes for an undefeated team that played in the state championship. And I think after that, some of the coaches were surprised. I think even my position coach, Dreiss, I think he said, "Engel, I thought you were a senior last year." I'm like, "No." He's like, why would you keep showing up if you were ineligible, if it wasn't your last year?" I'm like, "I need the practice. I want to be a starter senior year. I want to be good. I want to be great." That was pretty good. So football players play to play. They live to play. Their dream is to play. And for this Big Ten commissioner to try to take this away, it's awful. We've got to get back to work. Take reasonable precautions, but get back to work. No more panic porn. Just, you gotta get rid of that crap. Average age of death, 77. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 77. Meaning half the people dying are above 77, something like that. Half of these deaths were from what people like Cuomo did in New York, putting the elderly with COVID back into nursing homes to spread it through the nursing homes to take out the weakest among us. Just awful. Just awful. Take that away, what are we looking at? We're looking at something bad, but luckily this wasn't the Captain Trips from the Stand by Stephen King like we were worried about. Luckily. Anyway, back to this article. Asked whether his teammates were unified in wanting a fall season, Meyer said, "To my knowledge, every single player on the team wanted to play. As far as I know, there wasn't one person who said, well, hey, maybe this isn't safe. There wasn't any of that. I never heard it one time throughout the whole process." Michigan defensive back Hunter Reynolds also signed the petition telling ESPN, "I maintain the stance that other players and I want to play in a situation that is made as safe as possible and work with the conferences and NCAA in order to determine a solution that addresses and concerns the concerns that college athletes are having and finding a way to ensure that every school is adhering to a uniform set of protocols." So, I mean, there's some common sense stuff coming out. I've seen some ridiculous stuff coming out. I think that was the Pac-12. Whew. That's Berkeley and Oregon for you. Anyway, Reynolds and Minnesota defensive back Benjamin St. Benjamin S.J. are co-presidents of the College Athlete Unity Group, which was formed this summer to give student athletes a platform for peaceful protest regarding racial injustice and other social issues. He signed the petition saying he wanted to show support for fellow Big Ten players, but acknowledged that the conference made a professional and rational decision. Yeah. We just have to go with what they say at this point because time was working against us and the plan was not well structured? Come on. Some parents of the Big Ten players spoke out. And that talks about Nebraska, Penn State, Iowa as well. Christopher O'Shaughnessy, whose son Michael is a punter at Ohio State, said he signed the petition and that the parents are proud of Fields and what he's doing. "If you're telling us it's not safe for our kids to be either in the practices or in the games, tell us why. We want to know," O'Shaughnessy said. "If we're supposed to be protecting our kids from something, we want to know what it is. The Big Ten did not share any of that information with us, and that's where I get mad." Well, I got a lot of reasons to be mad about this. And sad. So, time is going to tell here. It's interesting. Number one recruit Jack Sawyer is skipping his final high school season. and he's going to attempt to enroll at OSU. Interesting. Well, 5-star defensive end. Trying to enroll early. All right. Well, that's a big story. So, yeah, there's playoffs going on. If you want to know, Celtics beat the Sixers. Raptors beat the Nets. Nuggets beat the Jazz. And we're in the third 2-point game, Clippers-Dallas. So what do you think? I already gave you a question of the day, but what do you make of all this? Do you think this guy should be fired and replaced? I do. I really do. I want to see a season. Well, we'll see. That's all I'm going to give you for today. I'm going to wrap this up. Got a lot more to talk about. You know, football is happening now. Professional, the NBA. I'm sorry, the NFL. You know, we're back in training mode now. Training camps and that stuff is all coming up, and I'm really excited. There's no way the NFL is going to be shutting down. Thank God. So, anyway, if you like sports, subscribe, youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. You know, like the channel, subscribe, click the notification bell. We have another channel that's sports only, and if you're in the groups, we'll post that regularly and pin it as an announcement to the top of the page, and we'll share it on Twitter at @TheUnhappyHour_. Our flagship Twitter is @American_Media_. But Facebook, make sure you follow us in our private group. Do a search for The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. And then once you're in, invite your friends. Take 5 minutes, click the invite button, and go through, hit all your sports fan friends. Because we love sharing great memes, we love telling jokes, we love breaking news stories. That's what we do. That's what we've done for the past 9 years. We're not done. We haven't even started yet. We haven't even warmed up yet. But we are definitely fans of the Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeyes, Blue Jackets. But we'll talk about anything. Anything that's newsworthy in the world of sports, we're going to cover it. We just ask that you keep the conversation mostly civil. So, signing out, my name is Brian Engelman. I want to thank each and every one of you. I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll talk again soon. Take care. Peace.